for this too. I'm going to just click in here. What's up, Facebook? We're still trying to figure this out. Just give me 1 second as people join. So I have this right here. Perfect. So those of you who are joining here, the cat is out of the bag. The man who is sharp dressed today, Dr. J. Joubert Desulme, chiropractic physician in St. Petersburg. If you're watching me on Facebook, you know I'm Derek Bernstein of Bernstein Law. And this is the first time that we're doing a Zoom live to Facebook. So for those of you who are watching this, I love to see some crowd participation. Musa just joined, Musa Wood. Write your comments in the back box because I would really like a good dialogue going back and forth. Obviously, me and Dr. Desulme will have conversations, but obviously you see here, I'm probably one of the whitest people in the world. And obviously I've grown up as a white guy. I did not transition away from my whiteness here, but then Dr. Desulme is an educated Black man as well. So I'd like to thank him for coming here, coming up with the ideas for us to get together and have a nice conversation here and just discuss the things that are going on. So Dr. Desulme, why people are logging in and checking out, why don't you give a little introduction of yourself and a short description of your background?
Sure, of course. Well, as Derek said, my name is Dr. Joubert Desulme, but most people call me Dr. J. And a little bit of my background is that I was born and raised in Haiti. I came here when I was about 15. And I grew up in St. Pete. I went to Lakewood High School. And then I went to University of South Florida for biomedical science. And then after that, I transferred to Parker University in Dallas, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in health and wellness, doctorate degree in chiropractic, and anatomy, a degree in anatomy. I practiced in Dallas for about five and a half years, and family no longer want to stay there no more. So we moved down back home. So kids are growing up, so we moved back home to enjoy the family life, so the kids can get to see their grandparents. So yeah, that's pretty much I want to practice in the community, and it's been going on for about 3 years now. And it's been definitely been a blessing, and which brought us to here what we have here today, where it's definitely been 2020 has not been nice.
2020 has definitely been probably one of the most interesting years that I could remember, because it seemed like every year we're getting the Ebola is going to kill us, and the West Nile is going to kill us, and everything's going to kill us.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this Corona thing takes off, whether you think it's, really a killer or not, or should have shut down the government, should have not. We're not here to discuss that today.
Right. Right. It's a different subject.
That's a different subject. But it rolls right. Time. Yeah, it rolls right into civil unrest of what we're here to talk about today is the racial injustice. And for those of you guys living under a rock lately, what you have seen in the news and what you've seen everywhere else is, and what really sparked things was Greg Floyd.
Correct.
Oh, sorry, George Floyd.
George Floyd.
George Floyd. And obviously we've seen the video, and I think the difference on this one was, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm seeing through my perspective, the difference that I saw in this one is there's no excuse. There's no real way you can spin this. I mean, they're trying to spin it. They're like, oh, he had some drugs, in his system, or oh, he whatever. But we've all seen the video. 8 minutes, 46 seconds. It's clear police brutality. It's clear, in my eyes, murder. And when you're looking at people right now are being kept in their homes, they can't work, they can't even, at one point they couldn't go to church, they can't go to the beach, they can't do anything, they're getting broker by the day. Our government is letting us down, with failures in unemployment and bailouts and $1,200 check that some people still haven't gotten. When you mount that all together, it was just a social explosion. And so, I'll tell my perspective side of it, and then obviously give it over to you. Looking at it as a white person, and being that I've been out to the protests here, and I've been trying to help the protest from a peaceful standpoint and give my legal knowledge and expertise to try to help protesters. I'm seeing a lot of white kids out there, a lot of white kids in St. Pete. And now I only live in St. Pete, and we see Tampa and things like that. But it seems that across the nation, even white eyes are opening up, not all of them, to holy crap. And I was just watching the movie Selma, which I've walked the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama before. And they, for those who don't know it, look it up. Broadcasting that or dogs attacking children and fire hoses just open up that white consciousness, and it was like take to the streets too. And it's not just a bunch of angry black people there. So Doc, give us your perspective of kind of what you saw at the beginning of this.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely say that that was murder. And if you even look at the video from the beginning, he was cooperating with the first two police officers that actually addressed him. And they even require for him to sit down on the floor, which he did. And if you look at when the officer that put his knee on the gentleman's neck, he wasn't even there until they are transferring him to the car, to the police car. And then that's when everything went south. And when you look at anybody that's looking at that video, if you don't feel the pain, the anger, then something's not right, because it was the way it happened. It showed that the officer didn't really care.
Yeah.
Imagine listening to somebody screaming for his mother as he goes through this, and his last words said, "They are going to kill me."
Yeah.
Grown man screaming for his mother, a deceased mother, till we find out that it was. And it's really sad. The issue that I have with the other officers that was surrounding him is that they could have changed that outcome.
Yeah.
It's an outcome that could have been changed. And I felt like that when they did not do their job.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, and people want to say, well, the protest should stop now. He's been charged. They've been charged, right? But they didn't even charge him initially.
Right.
And this is clearly some abuse of power. At some level, it's criminal. Whether you want to say it's murder 1, murder 2, 3, whatever. It's clearly aggravated assault. I mean, it's something, right? Even if you're trying to downplay it to some, it's clearly an abuse of power. Then they go and they basically give us a bullshit autopsy report, right?
Right.
And then it's that compounding thing that happens where, you can just see it's so blatant that it's systematic. Here's a white officer, and people say, what happens if it's a black officer? It's not, though. It's not. So let's stop with the hypotheticals. Right. It seems to be white officer, black men, more so black men over black women too. Society definitely has, in my opinion, more of an issue with black men than they do have with black women. Not to say black women don't have their own struggles, but to me, when I'm seeing it, life is more difficult in my eyes to be a black man. Not that I'm trying to put people, the genders against each other, but it seems to be you can't just yell like you're resisting arrest. It's the thing that gets thrown. It's like, well, they were resisting. Like, well, the cops just saying it. Like, these cops are just saying you're resisting. And we're seeing the only reason I think that this person got arrested was because people are protesting. And I think the only reason that the second group got arrested was because people started setting stuff on fire.
And the thing is, what I've noticed is that is the amount of time it takes to charge him. That's one. Now, with all the protests that's going on out there, for some reason or another, I see people assume this is just it. But we have to go back. Let's go back in from February. From February till June, what happened? We have a young gentleman that was jogging, and basically the
His
two,
neighborhood.
his father and son track him down, plus another neighbor shot him.
Yeah, from the back of their
Just from
pickup
jogging,
truck, like he was some
right?
sort of hog.
Exactly. And what happened with that? It went 2 months before that gentleman before they actually arrest him, right? That's one. And let's also look at the young lady that was sleeping in our apartment,
Yeah,
where they broke
Breonna
in
Taylor.
and exactly, and they killed her, arrested the husband, and these people still hasn't been charged. And then to add to the issue, we have many people have been dealing with coronavirus for about 2 months now. They've been in the excuse me.
Uh-oh.
They've been in the house, right? They've been in the house all for 2 months, right? And if you look at the matter of fact is that majority of people that were affected by this coronavirus is the minority, right?
Yeah.
If it's the minority, therefore you have people that still haven't went by with the moon with the excuse me, that still haven't finished dealing with that. And some people, or their parents may have died that they couldn't even go to the hospital. Okay, so we have all this combined at once, and then this is why we have this explosion. This is something that it was just a matter of time before it happened. And if you also look at the Central Park, this lady called the cop for a bird watcher.
Yeah.
For what? Because they tell you to follow the rule of the park. And those are the things that's combined.
Well,
And
did
then
you see too the video is going viral with now it's I love the term, but it's like internet, like Karens, like
right
40, 50, 6-year-old white ladies who want to they just freak out on every black person, young person doing anything. And it was the woman he was in Central Park, and he had asked her to like chain up her dog, right?
right exactly
And she's standing there, and she gets on the phone, and she's like, "I'm calling the cops." And then she goes, "There's a black man here." And it's like, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And the fact that you say it like that, you know there's a problem if you can perpetuate it so quickly.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you look at it, when she did it, she basically using his color to describe it, because that become, hey, a black man all of a sudden is a bad guy. Right? There's, like you mentioned earlier, there's that fear every black man you meet is a bad person. That is not true. I constantly hearing, well, not every policeman are bad. Every cops are bad. I agree. But in the same token, we must not forget that not every African-American person you meet or black guy you meet is a bad person.
Well, I think also too, what I try to get out there is not every person with a criminal record is a criminal.
Exactly.
We should be looking at that more so now, because I am representing people, and I honestly don't know all their races, to be honest. I think I have a couple white people, a couple black people. When I'm doing my pro bono cases, it wasn't really one of my questions to ask. But, you know, we look at that, and it's, you know, unlawful assembly.
Right.
You know, it's we're seeing, well, some of the ones I have are inciting a riot, which they were not doing, and disorderly conduct, right? It's just some crap that, you know, these cops make up. And you watch these videos, and I'm big on, like, you know, I'm watching TikTok videos, I'm on Instagram watching videos, and the cops do not get it still. They don't get it. And I think that's why you're seeing these protests continue, because you see the old guy up in Buffalo, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, definitely.
He's 75 years old. He's clearly not presenting any threat to anybody. He's old. You might say, well,
pretty sad.
you know, you might say, well, he could have something on him. Yeah, you know what? No, come on.
Like what?
You're wearing riot gear to peaceful
Like what?
protest.
What could he possibly have on him? They literally pushed the old man without any care.
And then when he was bleeding from his head, then they go and nobody helps him. You know, the one guy was going to go reach down and they pulled him up, you know.
Right, that's the same guy that pushed him.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the same guy that pushed him. He was trying. Then he noticed what he had done. He was trying to basically try to give him some aid, and I guess the supervisor, I guess, then told him not to continue.
Yeah, and so I mean, we're seeing this, and I continue to see it, and it's just like, to me, you know, to me it's infuriating to watch. But I said this to my wife too, and you know, she's a Hispanic woman, and it's different. And I try to sit there, and I'm like, I'm angry about it because it's not equal protection, but I can walk down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not really going to get messed with any of the time. I've never been pulled out of my car. I've never been really followed at a store. I've never been made to feel unsafe because of my color of my skin. So I can imagine, you know, when you see this, you know, can you talk a little more about, because look, I have some black friends, right? But I have mostly white friends. It's just,
right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a cultural thing. We've been programmed, right? So most of the people who are watching this on my friend list, most of them are probably going to be white. So can you kind of describe to these people, because look, you're in a suit and tie. Look at all those damn plaques behind your head. You're clearly a smart person. You're not a criminal. You're not the big bad boogeyman black guy that everybody is taught to fear, right?
Exactly.
So when you see that type of treatment, how does it make you feel?
That to be, if we go back to the gentleman that was jogging that we talked about, if we go back to him, this is where it's kind of resonate with me the most, because I'm a very healthy person. So I go run all the time, and I live in a very upscale neighborhood, which means when I go running, let's say I get for some reason or another, somebody saw me under the assumption that I'm doing something wrong. Without the suit, without people that know me, people that I conduct business with, to me, all somebody see is a 6-foot black guy running on the street. That's all they see. And the thing is that I used to go when I go run, I don't bring my cell phone with me. I don't bring my ID with me because I run at full speed. I grew up playing soccer, and I try to maintain that as I go running. And after what I saw with that young man, I basically stopped doing that. I make sure I bring my cell phone with me because of that fear. And you'll never see me walking on the street in my neighborhood past 9 o'clock.
Wow. And so I try to explain this to people, and that's crazy to hear you say that, right? And I'm an educated person. I'll walk wherever I pretty much want. Obviously, if it's not a terrible neighborhood, I'll walk wherever I want, kind of whenever I want type of deal. But I try to tell people, especially, you know, obviously I don't need to tell black people, but I try to tell white people and even Spanish people, Hispanic people, that, like, I do not think about being white ever. It's not a part of my day, my year, my anything. No, and I can't speak for everybody, but most white people don't think about being white because when you start the video game, we're the default color, right?
Right.
Band-Aids, nude color,
right,
is this, right?
Right.
But so we're the default thing. We don't think about our color. And so I think what a lot of white people don't know is that in the black person's day, and this is from talking to a lot of black people,
right,
you are very conscious that you are a black man every single day.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice, to be honest. It's sad. It's a sad situation.
Yeah, but
And
I think that's so when I try to talk to people and I'm talking to people and I see stuff online, you know, these white people don't see the racial thing, even the ones who are like well intentioned, because race is not important to the everyday white person's life.
right,
You know, I just drive a place, I wear stuff, even like a Trayvon Martin one, right? Wearing a hoodie. Or
right,
now with Corona, white people not thinking about this is a lot of black people are afraid to cover their face from ones I talked to
right.
because they go into a store and now they have a mask on. You
You
know
know
what I'm
what I
saying?
do? To be honest with you, do you know what I do when I walk into a place with a mask? Before I put the mask on, I basically walked into the store first, so they identify my face, and then I put the mask on, because I know there's the assumption if you walk in, because if I'm wearing regular clothes, once again, that's what you see. So unless I'm with my family, I walked into a place, then I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with it. That they see I'm with a family, there's nothing that can be happening. But I still do that as a way to kind of prevent any sort of misunderstanding. So, and I can definitely relate to others that feel that way. It's a sad situation, but it's true.
Yeah, and I think, having these types of conversations, and hopefully when people see this and watch it and they pick up a thing where they're like, this is a man who's got a doctorate. He's smart, he's eloquent, he's dressed nice, he's everything society says you want to see in a black man, right? And he won't go jogging at 9 p.m., right? I'll drink beer in my front yard. I don't give a damn, right? And nothing will happen to me. So, it's just, I think having these types of dialogues in the back and forth, just hopefully for those people who are watching, and maybe have been a little closed-minded to things, maybe they can open it up. But one thing I did want to ask you, because you have the benefit for me to talk to you, is you've been a black man in Haiti, you've been a
Correct.
black man in the United States. So
Correct.
can you talk about how is race different? And for those of you who don't know the historical implications of, or the historical background of Haiti and how they became independent and the French colonialization of Haiti, that's a whole nother thing. But,
Right.
Haiti is predominantly black.
Correct.
What would you say, 85% African?
About 85, 90.
Yeah, so how is your experience? And obviously growing up and leaving at 15, you didn't get to be a man in Haiti, but what is your experience in still talking with family members there about kind of how does a government run mostly by black people with black officers, how does it differ day to day than in America?
Completely different. Completely different. Because growing up in Haiti, I was raised where my last name is the most important thing in the world. We will do whatever it takes to make sure we don't jeopardize that. And what that means is that we basically make sure we go to school and where we follow the proper procedure, where we never run into. Honestly, I've never been exposed to racism until I came to the United States. Never in that 15 years.
What about the white people there?
The Actually, the white people, they are very welcoming. To be honest with you, very welcoming. They actually embrace the culture. They embrace the culture, and one thing you'll anybody that ever been to Haiti, what they will tell you, people there are nice. And there is because you go to a place, if you feel welcome, guess what you're going to send back? The same way you feel. So there's never been any major issue that will make you think otherwise. Of course, we have the certain class. The way it's basically based, you have the poor, you have the middle class, and you have the wealthy. So that's pretty much what it's basically based on. But racism never been a part of it until I came to the United States. I remember I was in high school. I used to work for Stimpy Times. And I don't know if you remember that. There was one 1998. I went to work for Simply Times where I'll go door to door to have them subscribe for a newspaper.
Okay.
And it was a Saturday that my friend, it was a friend of mine who was Caucasian. He was on the left side, I was on the right side, where we're going door to door. And it's sort of a community that was more predominantly white. And all of a sudden, I saw a police car. He passed my friend and came directly to me. I have my tag and my shirt saying that I work for St. Times. So when he came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I got a call that people say you're knocking on their door, and I show him my tag, say this is what I'm doing, and in the community, and he's like, "Well, they don't want you to go to any door anymore. We need you out." So since when that happened, there was the last time I said, you know, I will never work there, and that I will never do this Simply Times thing anymore.
Yeah, and so I mean, you see things like, you hear those stories there, and of course, people are like, they'd be like, well, you were bothering and you were soliciting a private residence and blah blah blah, but so was your buddy, right? So was your buddy, and one of the things that people need to realize too is, so scientifically they've done studies. People assume black males' ages to be a lot higher than they are. That's one of the things too. So you get a lot of, when it comes to disparate sentencing, a lot more black men are charged as adults, even though they're 14, 15, 16 years old, right, compared to a 15, 16-year-old white kid who's going to get treated as a minor. And so in the criminal aspect, basically adults are penalized, right? It's the penal system. Their goal is essentially to punish you into being better, right?
Right.
But for children, the minor system, the goal is rehabilitation. So you take some kid who's 14 years old, 15 years old, and now you're charging him as an adult. I mean, you're talking about like, they were charging people who threw some firecrackers at these protests as third-degree felony, inciting a riot. So you get some kid who's 16, who's stupid because he's 16, right? Doesn't know anything. And next thing you know, they're charging him with a felony. And now you've ruined his life.
And this is, you make a very, very, very good point when you mention that. Because if you look at it, right now in 2018, right, you have black are 5 times more likely to go to jail than white. Now, well, you said, well, they're
breaking more laws, right?
Right, but if you look deep to it, is that if 5 times more likely to go to jail, and if you live in an industrial area, you are 10 times more likely to go to jail if you are black. And if you look deep to it, is that black is only 13%, right? If we couple 13% and Caucasian is 76.6 or 80 of the population, that's a big number.
I think it's like 60%. But yeah, right. No, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. So if you look at the number, it's not correct when you have that kind of number. Now, here's what happened.
And people, just to interject too, they've done studies through all races. They all commit about the same amount of crime per person. So everybody's out there doing something stupid, right?
Right. But for some reason or another, even though they all commit the same crime, you will see where African American or black, should I say, will get more jail time than Caucasian.
Yeah.
That's one. But the main point we need to look at is that if you arrest a young kid at the age of 16, for example, right? And if for a misdemeanor, you can correct me if I'm wrong. For a misdemeanor, let's say they will require about $1,000 to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And for a felony, probably like 50 to about 50,000.
It depends on what the felony
is. It depends on the crime, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's say this young kid now has a record.
Yeah.
So the moment he get pulled over again, guess what's going to happen? The record will pull up.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he become the anger guy. So something's wrong with them. And because of that, now that he has a record.
Oh. Still there? It looks like Dr. Desulme might have dropped out here for a second. But I think he may be coming back. There it is. We're losing audio. My internet is unstable. 1 second, Doc. I think internet's acting up. Hold on 1 second. I think, are you muted? I think you might be muted. Can you hear me? All right, so you can hear me. Let's see why I can't hear you. That's weird. All right, 1 second here, folks. Sorry about that. If you're still hearing me, but I cannot hear a word he's saying. Oh, is that you right there? Or? Doc, can you say something? I'm not hearing anything. 1 second, let me try to switch over on my internet connections and try to kick over. I think like the whole area in general is having some issues. So let me try to connect over.
I think we couldn't.
There you are.
There you are. Right now?
Oh, I had you for a second. If you could talk again.
All right.
I got you.
All right. There we go.
All right.
So, and this is what happened when you have that kind of numbers. That decrease that become a major issue. Now, let's say they weren't able to bail themselves out, right? So they end up staying in jail for 3 or 4 days. And if they had a job, guess what happened?
They're fired.
They get fired. So now they have a record and get fired and for maybe something they did not do. Yeah. Right? So now
they gotta take a plea.
They're limited on finance, right? They're limited on finance. And the parents had to basically get money from, actually, I'm gonna give you a quick, I saw this earlier, where this gentleman, he was working, I believe it's happened in New York. He is about 17 years old. No, he was 16 when they arrested him. And because some gentleman said he stole his backpack, that cost about $2,000. And he stated that he did not do it. And then still they arrested him. After they arrested him, when he got there, and they would not let them bail him out. They wouldn't bail him out for some odd reason. And then now with the young man, while he's in jail, guess what happened? They wanted him to take a plea deal.
Yeah.
So he refused to take the plea deal. And then this poor guy, right? He spent 3 years in prison. And he went through so much. And then when he finally went to the judge for court, the judge said, "Hey, if you take this plea bargain, we will let you out tomorrow." So he refused. So they sent him back to jail. That's why he spent 2.5 years in jail. Now imagine this gentleman come out. He got his GED. While he was in jail, he tried to commit suicide numerous times. And then when he got out, then he went and got his GED, helping helping other kids to get teaching them math to get their GED, and then he got to a point where he couldn't take it anymore and took his life.
Wow. So I mean, essentially, the system killed him.
Exactly.
I mean, the way I look at it, I have some cases that, and I don't do a lot of criminal stuff. I'm doing this now because I feel like there's a need out there. But like I have a case, I'll give an example, hypothetical one, because I'm not talking about any particular one.
Right, of course.
But with the protesters, there's people out there who have $150,000 bond, right? And so back in England, back in the day, they used to have essentially debtors' prisons, right?
Right.
And they would, if you couldn't pay a debt, you'd go to jail, right? And then you couldn't work and you couldn't pay. It was basically slavery, right? It turns it into slavery. But what ends up happening is, so you have this person who had a job, who has a family, and you put $150,000 bond as some sort of way to do what? To teach them a lesson. And this can be for, what if you don't have any family and friends who can raise money, right? We all know the dog, the bounty hunter and stuff. You got to come up with 10%. So say you have a bail of $25,000.
Right.
And now it's Corona time, right? So people are really hurting. The average family only has before Corona was $700 to their name. Right? So if you have a $5,000 bond, and that's a mystery. You can get, a DUI, you could be out on a $5,000 bond, right?
Right.
Can you get $500? And to some people, you go, $500, every poor person's lazy, right? That's another discussion. But the average person can't just scrounge up $500 like nothing. So if you put a $5,000 bond on somebody because of, let's say, a DUI, or something. Let's just use DUI as an example because, it's something that probably every person has drank a little too much before and gotten away with it, or maybe has gotten popped with it, something that's relatable. So if you have a $5,000 bond on a DUI, you're in jail. If you can't raise it, you just sit there until the case runs its course. So the maximum penalty for a DUI is 1 year in jail. Most people are not going to do jail time unless you have a bunch of prior records, right? So maybe you were a stupid kid, you got charged as an adult. You might be facing that year in jail. Now, you'll be appointed, because it's a first-degree misdemeanor, you'll be appointed a public defender. So you get the public defender, or say it's a second-degree misdemeanor, and you're not given a public defender, and you can't post bond because you just got some judge who's kind of racist and shitty. You can't get out. Now you're facing second-degree misdemeanor, which is really, those are like unlawful assemblies of second-degree misdemeanor. They're all bullshit little charges. They are. That's what they are. Nobody's spending jail time on a second-degree misdemeanor unless your past is really screwed up. Right. But in general, if you miss a day of work or two, and you can't afford that, you're more than likely a lower-level worker.
Right.
You get fired. You're fired now. You're in jail. Your kids, you're not around for the kids. They're not getting paid. Maybe you're separated from the mother, and now you're not paying child support. She loses her apartment. She's in the streets with your kids. And it's just from a DUI. And I used to work at the state attorney's office as a clerk, a certified clerk, so I prosecuted some of these misdemeanor type cases. And you watch the videos, and you're like, this guy's not even really drunk. They refused a field sobriety test. They're like, and you'll see the same words. This case out of Atlanta over the last weekend, you'll see it's always bloodshot, watery eyes, the smell, emitting of a alcoholic beverage. Like nobody effing talks like that.
Right.
And slurred speech, right? But if I rolled up on you, Dr. J, if I've never seen you before, how do I know what you sound like? A, to say your voice is slurred. B, watery eyes. You could have, whatever. And so
was he sleeping in the car though?
Oh yeah, he was probably drunk.
Yeah, if you're sleeping in your car, what happened to your eyes?
Yeah,
what do we do the first morning we wake up?
Of course, yeah, you rub your eyes. But in general, let's say you did only have a beer. Right. Let's say you aren't drunk. Let's say a cop can still, and they go, well, if you're not drunk, you're not going to go to jail. A cop you have no recourse against these police, because
Right.
if they pull you out of your car and charge you with a DUI, then pulling you out was totally justified, right? Because they
Right.
have to get this big criminal off the street, and then they're going to go and take you to jail. You're going to be in jail, all that stuff. Say that you do hire an attorney. I charge $4,000 for DUI defense without going to trial. So if you got $4,000, cool, call me up, I'll take care of you. If you don't, you have your public defender who's more than likely going to push you to take a plea deal because they have 5 bajillion cases.
To move to the next one.
And go to the next one, because it's not that they're bad attorneys, they have too many cases.
Right.
And so you end up either having to take the plea deal because they're like, look, you can get a hardship license, you get your license back in a year, you'll be good, just take the driving courses, which are just a bunch of other fines and fines and fines. And then at the end of the day, you weren't even drunk. Because it's cheaper to do that, plea out, keep your job, than pay me $4,000 or wait on the, people say the public, pretenders or whatever. So like all these people take such bad deals where you walk in there with an attorney, you have different results. And I think that's one of the things that I think is the big part of where I want to see things move forward. Obviously, we need to change the racial thing, but there's huge socioeconomic issues. And I think that's another thing that your average poor, struggling white person is not understanding too. When we talk about, what is white privilege, is there white privilege and things like that, is yes, white people struggle too.
Right.
But on top of that, they have to deal with racial injustice.
And like when we talk about white privilege, that doesn't mean you're not going to have difficulty. I remember I was having a conversation with a young lady. She mentioned to me, "Well, Doc, you did well for yourself. You which means that does not mean anything.
It doesn't mean everybody can do it.
Yes, we all have struggle, we all have difficulty, but one thing that you never have to worry about as a white person, you never have to worry about you telling your kids, hey, be careful out there. Talk to them about, hey, you may not come home because you're doing something you did not do. You might get killed. You never have to talk about your kids, hey, when you go jogging, if you get pulled over, hey, this is other step you need to take. Just follow the accommodation, do this, do that. All this, that's what mothers, parents are doing in the African-American community, or should I say in the Black community, is just to educate them, try to say, hey, I'm hoping that you can make it home.
Yeah. And I think,
so this is not, it's not about that you went into difficulty, it's not saying that, hey, everything is fine for you because you're white. No, this is life. If you ever look at my posts, I'm always talking about positive posts, because I know everybody, whether you're black, yellow, purple, orange, you are going to run into some difficulty in life, whether it's in business, whether it's personal, we are going to run into difficulty. Yeah. But as one of the things that you will never have to worry about is somebody else to judge you because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, and I think that's a real important thing for people to understand, because like me, I like to consider it, and I think finances in the United States, and I think the quality of life in the United States right now really sucks, because I look at my grandparents' generation, right? And they'd be 94 right now. So my grandparents, both of their parents came over here from Europe. Right. They didn't have great jobs, like, you know what I'm saying? They were skilled type of laborers and things like that. My grandfather was a cop, right. NYPD. My grandma basically didn't work most of her life, when they were young couple and things like that. She had a job, but she was a stay-at-home mom. My grandfather was a cop, and they were able to live pretty good, right? Right. And when I say that he worked, you're talking about like 9 to 5 in it with paid lunch. Right. And so now we have, which I believe in women's liberation movement and stuff like that, but now we have every family pretty much has two working parents,
Right.
or one of the parents doesn't work because childcare is so expensive, right?
Right.
So we have that, and people are working 8 to 6,
Right.
no paid lunch, bad health care, all these things. And life has just gotten, and I credit a lot to just big businesses, because big business doesn't care about you. You're just a number.
Right.
Walmart doesn't care about you. I think the backbone of our society is like your office, Doc, or mine, where it's really hard to do shitty things to people you see every day, right?
Right. Right.
It's hard
That's
to
what
roll up in a 7 series and then be like, Christmas bonus came, I got this nice watch, So I think I would love to see in communities, not just white, black, everything is more entrepreneurship, but this game is not easy. Running
no,
your
it's
own business is not easy. They see you're a hustler, I'm a hustler. We are exceptions to the rule.
right.
You should be able to, in America, in 2020, where our working people are the most efficient generation of workers ever, you should be doing pretty good. Not having not enough money in the bank to post a bail on a bullshit DUI. So I think when people look at that, like, I understand the struggle out there. That's why, like, even during this Corona time and stuff, I've been having some fun and doing some fun stuff too, but I'm not trying to be braggadocious online, because people are struggling. And I think if you are posting all just your wins online right now,
Right.
really take into account how other people are doing right now,
Exactly.
and maybe not be so flamboyant about it.
It kind of make you look a little bit insensitive.
I think it does, and I'm all for everybody's happy. Yes, you got the new car and the new truck and the new this, but also know people are watching.
Oh yeah.
And if they
Definitely.
see you with the new fancy this or the whip, don't. People who are criminals, your true criminals, are smarter
Right.
than you think, and they'll
Right.
figure out where your office is, and they'll think whatever, and they will steal your watch and your car and break into your house. Don't broadcast everything.
Right. Right. And yeah, you have to you definitely have to be smart.
Yeah,
And certain things you don't broadcast, because especially this time that we are in right now. And it's, if we continue to do that, it'll definitely become a detrimental.
yeah.
So you mentioned about the small businesses doing different things. One thing I would like to start doing, I would like to see mentor young kids on
Mm,
how to be entrepreneurs,
yeah.
how to open their own business. I'm going to
And I
mention,
think I don't want to interject, but
yeah,
when people are watching this, I'm a lawyer, tons of education. Doc, look at all those damn plaques. Look at so many of them right there. So many pieces of paper on the wall. We're not talking about being a lawyer, being a doctor, opening up a medical practice, a law firm. I'm talking about cutting lawns, cleaning pools, doing the thing you like to do that will pay you 50, 60 grand a year instead of working at Amazon.
exactly. It's interesting that you say that. I just purchased a new lawnmower, and I have the one that I was using. I'm actually looking to actually give it to a young kid. I'll put gas on it. It's working fine. And right now it's raining out there. They can basically make a little bit of money, because
Yeah.
they're out of school. Instead of playing video games, they can actually make a little bit of money. So I'm looking to actually give that to one kid that showed me that he wants to learn, where I'm basically going to meet with him every month and
Yeah.
basically helping him on how to reach that goal. And
Well,
that's what he's going to do for the rest of his life, but it will give him the entrepreneurship
yeah, and
mentality.
I think, I mean, it's really important. I think we're about the same age. I think one of the things that, and I hear from the boomers, right, the
Right,
baby boomer generation, our parents, that they're always digging on millennials, right? It's always so negative about the millennials, right?
right,
And this is the flower power generation too, right? So I try to go to them, and I think, in my opinion, boomers have took the baton of the greatest generation, my grandparents, they had people mentored them, and they mentored people below them.
Right.
And I feel like at the boomer level, they just stopped because they have this fear of getting old.
Right.
And they have a fear of the next thing coming up. And so I think with our generation, I try to reach out to young kids, and I make it known a lot of them don't take me up on the offer.
Right.
But, if they come in the future or whatever, I'm like, yo, I'll show you how to like hustle and do stuff. Ask me questions, send me your resume. I'll take a look at it. Like, no problem. Because if we have more Main Street businesses and more Black owners of business, you're going to give, because my first job I got was at, I actually was cutting lawns with a neighbor who owned a business at like 11.
Right.
So I saved some money. I did that thing, and I probably could have made more money hustling out and undercutting him. But, you make money. When you make money as a young kid, you can buy yourself stuff. It gives you, money is power.
Right. Exactly.
Having your own money is power. But, especially one thing I don't think people understand too is 80% of jobs are connections.
Right.
I was able to get my daughter her first job just through me talking to one guy, boom, and it made it happen.
Right.
And then my son got his own, but I helped him with the resume. I did this stuff because I know how to do these things. If you don't have that person at home, then you're looking at it nowadays too. It's, employment laws are different. There's a lot less job opportunities for 16-year-olds. There's no job opportunities for 15-year-olds. Even when we were younger, they didn't really hire at 15.
Right.
So now you take where they should have started on first base at 16 is now being pushed to 17, 18. Right. And then if you are a Black man who should have started at 16 with like my son, he's Hispanic, but he's like the whitest kid ever, right? So he just basically, they just think he's white. And that Black male is maybe not getting his first opportunity until he's 18, 19 years old.
Right.
And so you're like, you should have been like 16. Yeah. By the time you're at 19, you're at your second, your third job.
Right.
And it's sad. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity with the internet and stuff like that if you hustle, but not everybody's a crazy hustler. Like, it's not in everybody. There's a bunch of people. Most people are just gonna be jobbers. So you get your job, and
you definitely making some great point. But we also, for that to happen, we have to invest in the youth, not turning the back on them, calling them a bad person without really invest. So we have to invest in them and basically educate them. How did we get there? I go to different schools, they go to different churches and do presentation for the young kids. Because the reason I'm doing is because I want to educate them on what's out there that they don't know. Because the majority of them, let's say they are a single mother, that they have to work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
The amount of time they have to educate their children is very limited.
Yeah.
So guess who they're learning it from?
The teachers, maybe.
Right. So now they get in trouble that same mother that's working 2 jobs got to find a way to take money out of the rent to try to bail them out, or like you said, on a nonsense case. Yeah. Now that record stays there. He can't work. So this is where I'll say it's somewhat of a racial oppression.
Well, I think too, to touch on that is systematically going back in time, pretty much to the abolition of slavery. There's been a systematic approach to take Black men out of the household through law enforcement, through law and order.
Right.
So you get these people, and not just Black. If you're a wife-wife combo, a husband-husband combo, you're raising kids. I'm talking 2 strong role models.
Right.
In a household. So you have this, but most couples are going to be predominantly heterosexual, man-woman. So I'm talking from that perspective.
Right.
You have this systematic approach, especially even with crack. The crack an epidemic. It was an epidemic. Well, I shouldn't say it was an epidemic. It was a crack problem, and
Right.
now, and because it was a black problem, and now we have a heroin epidemic that needs help because now it's a bunch of upscale white kids are addicted to heroin, right? So you see how things get chased different, but you had years and years and years, right,
Right.
of black women raising children with no male role model at home,
Right.
trying to be both mom and dad and work and not be the welfare queen, right? And you can't force somebody to want to be a parent. So if they don't want to, they don't want to. If they're having illegitimate children, that's, there's a lot of issues on a lower socioeconomic level. But you're talking about a bunch of young kids who do not have a good male role model to look up to.
Right.
And then you're like, and with finances or even without, even if there is a good male role model there, then you're looking at a mom and a dad both working full-time jobs all the time. Who's watching the kids? Who's teaching them stuff? Where back in the day, like my mom was raised by a mother who was there. My mom was there to raise us, to do stuff, to help with homework, to do all these things. You have a bunch of kids nowadays who don't have that. And if you're wondering why kids these days don't have the same morals and ethics, which is a whole nother thing we can talk about of where the morals and ethics were in the past when you're watching civil rights stuff from the 60s. I point to that. It's you don't have any parent in the household, and it's almost. I try to explain it to my son and my daughter. Is I'm like, you have such privilege that just like I hustle so much and we can have like provide a household where I'm done at a certain time and I'm here and we can do dinner. Like that is like a luxury in this country nowadays.
That's true.
So it's you people push it off on the teachers, which I do think we need less regulation on teachers. It doesn't need a federal mandates on things and just testing kids and testing kids. Pay better, get a better quality of teacher who cares more and has more freedom to teach everybody. And if we attack it from police reform to jail sentences to all these other things and put, focus on the family, which also means more time off, stable income, stable housing. When we do all those things at once, I think we're going to be amazed at what's going to happen. I'm hoping that what we see is with this.
We definitely need to invest on social services. I think there's a major mental health issue, and especially in the African American community, that's not been addressed. And
I would love to see. I was talking on that point. I was talking with my wife, and I was like, I would love to see more scholarships, for Black men in mental health, because I feel like people feel more comfortable talking about emotions to women in general, but there's some man-to-man things you don't want to have a conversation with a woman.
Of course.
And then I'd imagine a young Black man ain't gonna want to have that same conversation with me that he could have with you, because I can't relate to not being able to jog. My jogging limitations are purely physical. It has nothing to do with the color of my skin. It's just my inability to breathe air that fast. So, I would love to see more of that. And I think, when people say defund the police, I think they should change the narrative, because a lot of people don't actually mean defund them entirely and disband them. I would like to see funding allocation change, just like I would like to see in general at a federal level stop spending so much money on defense spending. When we don't have clean streets in New Orleans and Flint, Michigan, and all these other places, but we got plenty of money to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever else, the politicians want to point us in any given moment.
And I think the term defunding, it's a term many people have difficulty with, and which I can understand why. Defunding doesn't mean you don't need a police officer anymore. That's not what it's actually meant. Defunding is mainly, they look at it, if we invest in the community, then we'll have a better community, less stress on the police officers, less stress on the police department. If we improve the economy, the better the economy is, less money we have to spend on different things. And I also believe that, like you, as an attorney, me as a doctor, we are set to a certain standard where we are licensed.
Yeah.
And if we do anything wrong, what happened to us? We lose a license and we can no longer practice based on the case.
Yeah.
And I think as police officers, I believe they should have some sort of licensing that has to associate with, if you did something wrong, hey, your license can be suspended.
Well, I think too, another thing that we should focus on is because, so a lot of, I won't say all, but I don't like to paint in totalities, but I see a good number of police officers who used to be in the armed forces.
Right.
And especially if you look historically, like 9/11 was 20 years ago. So most of the people working now are in law enforcement, probably 20s, 30s, 40s, 50 years old, right? So if they were in the military during hostile war times,
right,
and you've been trained with your M16, enemy combatants doing, blowing you up, now you're on a police force, and I feel like they look at civilians as like they're in Iraq and we're the enemies. And right. I'm like, we're not the enemies. Like, why does the police why are they on riot gear? Like, nobody's shooting at them. Like, why do they have tanks? Like, this is not freaking North Korea. This is St. Pete. Like, if you have a bunch of dumb kids, let them run their mouth. If they start throwing rocks, arrest the people throwing rocks.
And that's it. I'm glad you brought that up, because when you look at people who are looting, vandalize other people's property, of course I condemn it. Now, there are two things we have to look at. There are three things. First, we have the protesters that do the peaceful protest, that there for a purpose, right? And then you have the opportunists. The opportunists don't care about what's happening.
Yeah.
All they want is basically, I see this, I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Mr. George Floyd. It has nothing to do with what's going on with the ratio. They just want to take the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then you have those that mainly focus on switching the story, which means if I can deviate the message, therefore I win. So if I deviate the message, therefore, hey, this group is bad group. They basically they also have the term thug.
That's the new one. To me, that's the new N-word.
Yeah, exactly. That's the term that is being used to basically deviate the message that categorize everybody that's protesting or thugs, which is, you and I know, is not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, those are the three things we have. We cannot put all of them in one place. We have to separate them because they are not the same.
Well, I think if
going to arrest those that the opportunists.
Yeah.
Arrest those that basically try to deviate the message. But the message also always remains the same. It's racial injustice.
Well, I think one thing that should be looked at too by a lot of white folk or even whoever's against social change, right? They'll look at something, and I find it so funny, right? Because the people link arms and they'll block Central Avenue, right?
Right.
And people will lose their shit over being delayed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, having to make a U-turn.
Right.
And it shows if you feel like you're being treated unfairly because they're like, well, I'm not a racist. Why the fuck are they here and fair me? I'm trying to get to work. This is bullshit, right? So you see this, it's usually like older white folks, right? And these white people in a moment where they feel they are being treated unfairly, they lose their shit in 5 minutes. And then I look at people and I look at this looting and I look at destruction and I'm like, I could imagine being a 50-year-old black guy who's treated like shit, who's just like, fuck it, I want to tear this whole thing down. Like, the world doesn't care about me. It's the whole thing. It's like, it's the saying. It's like, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
So I get why people are angry, and you get that angry black man moniker is always thrown out. And when I was younger, especially like shows like Real World, I don't know if you watched that while you were younger.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right? And they'd always have one guy, and they kind of had a moment of like angry black man moment on Real World, right?
Right.
They'd always put that up there and something. And when I was a kid, I was like, that guy's acting so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that he's getting that angry. Or you look at the black guy in his car, and I can look at him, I'm like, well, they're asking you to get out, just get out of the car. Like, why are you just sitting in the car? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at him and be like, just follow the police's orders and nothing will happen. And then look, George Floyd. You can follow orders and they'll still kill you.
And that's one of the things that actually bothered me a lot, is that we have this gentleman that actually followed ordered and were murdered on live TV.
Yeah. And I think
what more can the person do?
Yeah.
Right? And we also have to remember this officer has history.
Yeah.
He has a history. There's one case where he went inside a gentleman's house and shot him, and stated that the guy was trying to grab his gun when he wasn't.
He broke it in the middle of the night, basically.
Yeah, he broke into the middle of the night,
and every white dude.
He shot him.
Yeah, every white dude with. Look, if I'm not fucking asking who you are. Let me check and verify if that badge is correct. Like, I'm gonna kill you if you break into my house.
Isn't that why we have guns? If you have guns, somebody broke into your house, you should, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And the one thing I've noticed a lot when we talk about police brutality doesn't only mean white police officers. Yeah. It means every black, white, Caucasian, Asian, whatever the color may be. It's still the same. It's still police brutality.
I agree.
And that's what we're talking about. I see a lot of people say, "Well, how come this didn't make the news?" Well, it did. How did you find it if it didn't make the news?
Yeah. I mean,
you have that now. I'm going to say this. I've had some run-ins with police where it went well. I'm gonna give you a quick example. I remember I was going to USF, going to school I was going to USF, and I was on 275 heading, getting off on Fowler Avenue. When I got off on Fowler Avenue, the police officer pulled me over. And he said, so when he pulled me over, he came up and then he's like, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said,
that's
yes,
right there's a trap. I tell people in my videos,
yeah,
never answer that question.
So he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? I'm like, well, no, officer. He's like, well, you are speeding. I'm like, yes, I was speeding. And the reason why I was speeding is because I have an exam that I have to go take at USF. And I'm trying to make it on time. And the reason why I'm actually late because when I was at USF, I was working from 3 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning. At that time, I was working at the Benoit. So I was a supervisor at the Benoit. So I worked from 3 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning. So I have to get up and rush, head to school. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty much my life. And when he pulled me over and he's like, well, you are doing 100. I'm like, I don't think I was doing 100, but if you said so, I'm okay with it. And he's like, and I told him, hey, I usually have my my school shirt on. I show him my school shirt. I show him my backpack that was right next to me to show him that I'm not making it up. This is right now kind of you put me over is not helping me right now. So, and he went, he started writing his ticket, and he's like, this ticket is very expensive. And because I see you try to become something in your life, make something out of your life, I will let you go, but slow down. And that's a good connection that I had with this officer.
But it's also the point of police is to protect and serve. The point was he stopped you because you're going fast. He doesn't know where you're going. Fine, that's cool. And he taught you a lesson that you'll remember the rest of your life and didn't ruin it for you.
Exactly.
And that's the point is if we have more community policing, I think community policing can go so far, because if it's you versus them,
right,
then we're the enemy. And if you're not just like, hey, that's these 5 officers, this is our neighborhood, we patrol the streets, we go to houses, we talk, and I see little Dr. J when he was 7 years old, when I see him jogging, or I see him selling newspaper subscriptions in the neighborhood, and they're like, there's a tall kid, a black man selling with a bat. And they're like, that's Joubert. Like, he's selling newspapers. Don't even go out.
Right.
But if it's just the random guy you never know, and I blame the government for turning cops into tax collectors. Yeah. And it's not their fault as officers, but also you can't just follow orders. Following orders is not a good excuse. I mean, the Nazis said that at Nuremberg, and it didn't excuse that. It doesn't excuse this. You need to, and I try to ask people, and I've had conversations with military people too, and I'm like, what happens when you get the order to do something bad? Like, what happens? Like, what happened if the stuff in Tampa didn't go down?
Right.
Or maybe they're just peacefully protesting. And the president says, I'm sending in the National Guard, which they did, but the order is to just smoke everybody out and just really just law and order and really like come down hard. And if people got to die, people got to die. What are you going to do, 19-year-old kid who's just trying to get a free ride to college? Are you going to disobey the order? And I'm hoping that what we're seeing from these protests, and I'm seeing finally in life, some cops come out and say, I don't stand for this. I want to kneel. I want to walk. I want change too. And it's the first time in like history that we're actually seeing these good cops say, I've had enough too.
Right.
And the bad thing is there's not enough of them right now doing it.
Right. And the thing is like, I'm really glad to see that, because that's the first time we've ever seen that. And also, I think constantly they're asking the community, if we see something, say something. I think right now is their turn.
Yeah.
If they see their colleague doing something injustice or doing brutality, I think it's the time that they open their mouth and say something.
Yeah.
If you cannot ask of something from the community that you're not doing within your department. Right?
I agree.
So if you're going to ask me if I see something, say something. Therefore, if you see your colleague doing something wrong, you're supposed to say something and basically get him right up.
Well, I think that is, and I think it's the thing
that would be fair.
The thing to push legally that I think would change a lot is the immunity that officers have if they're acting as essentially as officers in the field doing something bad. You can't personally go after them.
Right.
And I think if you could start suing cops for assault and battery and, wrongful deaths and all this, and really put their livelihood on, and people go, well, we're not going to have as many cops. Okay, I'm cool with that. I think we probably have too many cops. Right. Maybe we take some of that money, we put it into some mental health counselors, we put it into some scholarships for kids.
Invest in our community.
You're defunding yourself. You just made our argument, right? So one last thing I wanted just to make before wrapping this up here so I can go make dinner is
I gotta head home as well.
Is I think we need to change the narrative in the country of what is acceptable, because I bring it up, you know me, I'm just apologetically me, and I see things and then I say them. Right. Is what is acceptable for being, I'll just put it as a minority. And I think right now it is the acceptable thing for a black man to be is to act white. They can't have an accent from the hood. They can't really have a southern accent so much. But you have to sound like really white in the way you speak. You have to look really prim and proper. You can't wear baggy shorts. You can't wear this. You can't wear that. All these things. You have to basically be a black version of a white guy, of a stereotypical, better than average white guy.
Right.
To be acceptable. Same thing with Hispanic and stuff like that. Like, you're not acceptable Spanish unless you're speaking English, unless you look a certain way, unless you do a certain thing. And so I'd like to see in society, like if you roll up on a dude with a Jamaican accent with dreads, like that's cool. Not like, oh, that guy's like, into drugs and this and that. And all the connotations are negative, instead of being like, that guy's pretty nice.
I feel like we not, the benefit of the doubt does not, for some reason or another, is not there for African American or black guy. And while it's said, but if we go back, I'm gonna give you a quick example. If you look at May 31st, 1921, and I'm talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Black Wall Street.
Yeah. So what did they do? What happened? The story behind it is that they said this young African American gentleman was in the elevator with the elevator lady, that when it stopped, he actually bumped into her, and just because of that, she claimed that she was raped, which found out later wasn't true. And then they went in, the mob went in, and basically destroyed the whole community. It was a community,
even historically further back than that, because I think it's important before we wrap it up, is like in places like Harlem and places like Tulsa.
Right.
They actually basically, and they call it Black Wall Street, because they said, okay, we're segregated. All right, we're going to do our thing over here. We're going to buy from our people. We're going to hire our people. We're going to do all these things. And when you got rid of all the bullshit, they flourished. Look at Harlem in the early 1900s, 1920s.
Exactly.
It flourished, and it was a great place to be black because there was a lot of black opportunities there. And there are some people here today who use that as an example in the black community and the white community of why things need to be separated. But I tend to look at it more in a positive area, whereas if given the same opportunities, black people aren't just poor because they're inherently lazy.
Right.
There's some other things going on here, and people forget, when they talk about looters, it's like, we're a country. I mean, you came from Haiti, but you did a lot of growing up here. We're a country where I'm an American, right? So I get the American, thing. I'm American. This is what America looks like as a white dude, right? But if you look at the average black person in America, they can trace their ancestry back to like Georgia in the 1500s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my great grandparents were from Sicily and Poland. And like, I'm barely new here as a family, and we automatically are goddamn Uncle Sam, red, white, and blue. But if a black person talks up, it's like, well, go back to where you came from. And it's like, their great, 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 great grandfather was from Savannah, Georgia.
Right.
Like, if there's any people who are, obviously besides Native Americans, who a bunch of white dudes from Europe raped, pillaged, looted, killed, every horrible thing you can think of, to all the people that were here, like somebody burnt down a Champ Sports. Who's still who's still shopping at Champ Sports? And then they get so angry at these thugs for breaking into a store and setting it on fire, and I don't like it either.
Right.
But why not be so angry at your government who just shut down that Champ Sports for 3 months and took all those people's jobs away?
Right. The mentality is definitely the mentality definitely different. But one of the reason why I bought that Tulsa, Oklahoma, is to basically show you a pattern that has been going on that we need to address. So we're talking about 1921, and let's fast forward a little bit, and I was watching American Got Talent, and there's this young man that spent 37 years in prison because a Caucasian lady said he raped her. Mm-hmm. And turned out that never happened.
Yeah.
And then 37 years, it's enough to break anybody. But somehow this man remains strong. And that's just one story. There are multiple stories as this. And I think the misconception that's out there is that black or bad people, black guy or bad person. That is completely not true. I have black friend, I have Caucasian friend, I have white friend. Like I have all kind of friends because we talk numerous times, and what I see the person, I respect you the same way you respect me. I feel like we're not respecting one another.
Yeah.
And the lack of respect is the reason why that brought the fear into mind. And I think if we see each other as human beings and give me the benefit of the doubt, whether you know what I do or not, give me the benefit of the doubt until I prove you wrong.
Well, I think also, just to wrap it up here too.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
I can keep going too, but
it's good. I'm enjoying it. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
But I think one of the things that I really think is there is a white fear out there. And I mean, we live in a big city, right? It's a multicultural city. I love it here.
Right.
But there's a real fear, and it's based in time and program. Like there's a fear that white people have the power in society. They do not want to let it go. They're grasping at any straw to keep other people down. And they're afraid, like, if the black man comes up and gets these jobs and gets this fair shake, like, it's going to take away from me. Like, there's a real fear, I believe, out there in some people's minds of, like, that. Of, like, back in the day, like, oh, I can't have some black guy dating my daughter because, oh, you're afraid your daughter's attracted to black dudes. Like, you're afraid, like, you want her to date some white guy, but you know that dude over there is pretty good looking and he's smoother than your dumpy-ass son. So he's going to get the girls because he's cooler. Right? You know, and then we try to, as a white people, we're like stealing your style, the music.
Right.
You know, the Beatles were just doing Chuck Berry, right? Like all these people, like the blues isn't, you know, one of my favorites, like Eric Clapton, but he was just stealing Muddy Waters, you know, Robert Johnson music. So there's a real fear out there, I think, that people need to just admit, talk it out, get over it. And then just be like, yeah, I mean, you're way more likely in your life to get probably murdered by your spouse than you're ever to be murdered by some random black dude on the street. Like, your daughter's not going to get raped by some random black dude on the street. They're going to probably get raped by some person who has put themselves in your child's life in a position of power where they can be alone with your child. Right. And your fear probably comes from a good place. Like, nobody wants to see their child raped. Right. But, like, it's so unfounded. It's a phobia that you need to work past because it's like, why does the white dude who's like the Boy Scout troop leader, and you're like, oh, I'll let him go on an overnight camping trip. And I'm like, no, not happening with my kid.
Exactly.
This is ridiculous. But then people are like, I'm not sending my kid into the South Side. And you're like, what's going to happen in the South Side?
Right.
Maybe they get beat up. Maybe their shoes stolen. Maybe.
It's not even, the thing is that it's not even that, it's all mental.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's all mental. None of this has proven to be true. It's that mentality that some people have put in their mind, that the moment you see this person, that's what they're going to do. That is not true. That can even be so far from the truth.
Yeah, and I think the key is integrate more.
Dialogue.
Everybody needs to get out and be fucking real. Like I had one, Jason Bryant is a local guy, black guy, and he's an entrepreneur, he's an executive. And I was like, we were just talking about like the N-word just in general. And I was like, I'll let you know, like most white people, I love the people are like, I've never used the N-word one time in my life. And I'm like, you fucking have. Like you have. Like every fucking person has used it. Have you been younger and used it derogatory to somebody and you were wrong? Yes. Have you said it jokingly? Yes. Have you sung it in a Jay-Z song? Hell yes. Like people, like it's just like it is a part of our lexicon in society. And depending on where you were in time or whatever, you can say like, look, I've used the N-word. I'm not proud of myself.
Right.
For having done that, I've changed as a person. I've gotten smarter.
Right.
And that's it. But you know what I'm saying? But to deny this or I don't see color. Well, then you're stupid. You're stupid because I see it. I see that you're a black guy. I see that things are different. It's obvious. If we don't just acknowledge that it is a difference, you were born in Haiti. Your upbringing is way different than mine. I tend to look at it as, hey, this is cool. Let's make some curry goat and hang out and drink some Haitian rum and have a good time. And other people see it as just being afraid of it. So, it's just getting out there and meeting people. So hopefully, looking at this, and I don't know if your screen froze or not because you haven't moved in a bit. Oh, there you go. You're moving. To wrap it up, because I got to go cook food for my son.
Yeah, I know.
This kind of stuff is important.
One thing I will definitely say to wrap it up is that we're in a different world, and the world is changing, and the protest that's going on is mainly everybody want to see something different. Everybody want to see a change. I know it may get on your way to go to work, but take the time to basically think about it. If you don't know what's going on, you don't understand what's going on, why is it happening? It is a good idea. Is it still working?
Yep.
All right. It is a great opportunity to reach out to, if you have a black friend, just text them and say, hey, let's have a dialogue. Yeah. Just like Derek and I are having right now.
And I think a thing that
doesn't make you a bad person if you don't know.
I think that's something to consider for all the black people watching this is too, or Spanish people or whatever, is be very open-minded if that white person's coming to you, because it could have been like the hardest thing they've tried to do. But if they're trying to open up and trying to learn or trying to do just different things, like you don't know what you don't know. And if you never ask, then you never know.
The answer is always no. The
answer is always no in your head. So if you're a black person, you're watching this and you have a black friend and you want to talk, just say, hey man, I'd love to talk and pick your brain and talk about your experience. And if you guys don't know somebody, friend Dr. Desulme, talk to him. If you're a black person watching this, and you want to get a white dude's perspective, I obviously don't speak for every white person. Dr. J doesn't speak for every black person, but at least we can give you our perspective as educated people who, are coming from a good place. Do we do everything in life perfect? No. Do we have different political views? Do we have different religious views and stuff like that? Like Dr. J is more of a religious person than I am, but we both have good ethics, morals. We want to see things done right. So if you're watching this, and you want to talk with me about social change, I'll talk to you about it. Obviously we're going on here like 2 hours of doing it. So I'm going to wrap it up.
I just realized it's 2 hours.
I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to put it on YouTube. If you guys want to find Dr. J, he's on my Facebook as one of my Facebook friends. Joubert, Joubert Desulme.
That's it.
LME. And he still owes me good Haitian food. So
we definitely have to hit Tampa whenever this coronavirus is done.
Yeah.
So we'll work on that.
Yes. All right. I appreciate it, Doc. I'll post this to YouTube.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. Be safe out there. Yes. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Go cancel that. I'm gonna stop the recording.